in there. We got, I might tackle that, but 5-2, I might lose sleep. But I'm not going to take this on a 4-3 council. I'm not going to do it. Someone else can chair the committee and oversee the building because I've done that twice. I've done it with the building 10 years ago we built that we're getting ready to get a windfall from, and I oversaw the building of the town shop. And the committee would be greatly involved. Finance would be involved in the beginning, and then the committee, we were tasked with picking out colors of the shingles and stuff. It's a lot of work. So it's not something I'm willing to take on at a 4-3 vote. So it's got to be something that we get together. Now, am I in a rush to surplus the armory? No, I'm not. Well, I am in a rush for a council to decide what to do with that building and execute it. It's been punted around, I don't know how long. And we weren't elected to sit up here and watch a building just go to pot. So that's why I wanted to get with y'all and hear what y'all had to say before we go any further.
Sure, and having said that, I just wanted to extend the offer. I know I offered for the Armory Group, we've just been doing these numbers as a volunteer, and if you guys have any scenarios that you'd like me to run, I'd be happy to do it. I put all my methodology on paper so you can see it. It's hocus pocus. But if you have anything you'd like to see,
well, I like to sit down and cry because if you get the help from the government, it's 1.8 million. If we do it on our own, it's 1.8 million. That's ridiculous.
Well, the difference is that when you're doing it to the secretary, you're incurring more costs. Like for example, you'd be more likely to keep the metal windows in the building. Right. That was one of the big differences. The number, if you're using the tax credits, you'd have to restore the metal windows. It's expensive, as opposed to popping in something. Right. Well, the beauty of those metal windows are those have lasted you're going to get a longer lifespan out of that unit than you would.
I guess if you came up here and said, we can do a blended, we can blend something and do it and get the town on the hook for $800,000, and we clearly can see where we would get that from the Bon Secours lease. Mm-hmm. It would be very easy to sell, But even though I share her sentiments that I want to see it, like I said, I'll be honest with you. When I walk in a building, I want it done.
Sure.
But I also have 3,700 people here that's going to have to pay for it. And if the money comes from Bon Secours, it's not free money. Any money that goes in the coffers is money we can use to pay off debt or lower rates. You got to look at it that way. And that's where I'm torn, just twisted, so.
And another way we could look at this down the road, we can all talk, if it would help, is you can also phase the construction. And there's certain parts of the building you may decide programmatically, and because of difficulty of access, you choose not to use the basement. Right. So, for example, we built into that an elevator, a 3-story elevator. That's $120,000.
Just so the Armory Group knows, and I'm not opposed to coming up with a 10-year plan where we take the Bon Secours money, we set aside, maybe we raise meals tax rate where transient people are paying a lot of it, and we mothballed the building for 3 or 4 years, got a big down payment on it, and go from there. I'm not anti-Armory.
Oh, no.
I sat in this chair and we talked about unscrewing every other light bulb in town so we could pay employees. You know what I'm saying?
I don't do not envy you that conversation.
Well, we sat here, and I sat in this chair, and we voted to take a $600,000 line of credit to pay bills. Those memories are still there, and $1.8 million is still a piece of money, even now.
Sure.
So that's the only thing I'm saying. It just got to be a matter of what level of commitment do we have to do it, and what backstop. And to me, a 10-year lease in stone for the majority of the debt service is a great backstop.
And one thing I was going to throw out in terms of that, and the reason I was mentioning phasing in terms of spending, is that also if you look at the Armory, the center portion of the building is not badly damaged. The damage is really concentrated at the two ends, mostly because the flat roofs weren't maintained and the water's come through them. So you could conceivably do a phase renovation where you start at the center core, which is the most used part of the building anyway. It's actually going to be the cheapest per square foot to renovate. You could do something in the center that would get that up and running, and maybe one end, it comes next online. You do the far end next. Or you adjust that level of treatment, because the center portion is what really gets used. Whenever I've come down for community events, that's where people are. And the beauty of it is it's the most important, it's the most special part of the building, and it'll be the cheapest to fix.
I understand.
You know, you could do something like that, you know, if you have a long-term vision for it, that maybe you bite that one off first, because it is going to be a much more doable number. You can get people in there, you can get people using it, throw a temporary roof on the ends, mothball the ends, you get to use the center. There may be some ways like that are meet the funding criteria that the city is committed to meet, you know, that you all have committed to staying within. There may be ways to massage the project, to go in phases, to hit those benchmarks. Just
Wonderful information. In the 7 years I've sat in this seat, I've never seen an issue that had so many caveats. You know, you're sitting here looking at money at historical lows. I just came out of my mouth. It still resonates. You know, maybe we mothball it for a period of time. We could be looking at 9% instead of 4%. You know, I don't know. I mean, what I understand, we're looking at in the next 2 years, 175 basis points on prime. You know, almost 2 points. And generally that means for me, that's 3% more I'm going to pay. So it's just so many caveats involved. But I guess the thing is, it's time for the big boys, the 7 of us, to sit up here and say, we got to do something. You know, we need to do something. And that's what's frustrated me, and it's the reason why I've contacted a couple of their members, and the reason why I brought it before this committee. And I have a committee tomorrow scheduled. If this committee wants finance to tackle it, I've got them scheduled tomorrow. So I'm doing everything I can do to shed light on it, and that's what I'm trying to do, shed light on it. So, Mr. Manager, do you have any questions for our speaker?
Just clean up a couple things. One of the things that Jenna shared with everybody.
Thank you. You have any?
you have a question for me? Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank
you for the opportunity.
Thank you for volunteering, and thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you so much.
I still fervently believe that if everybody thinks that we're going to find enough grant money to do this project, I think that's not going to be the case.
I said offset. I didn't say we'll
Offset.
start all the
We can continue to try to offset. We told Watermac we would still look for things. But I can just flat tell you, when I sat on the front porch of UMAC and Frank Ruff put his arm around me and said, son, I've known you a long time. Yeah, but there's just not a grant here. And UMAC was perfect. I mean, that was a job generator. It was in private investments. And the Tobacco Commission, they did give a $5 million loan, but not a dime of grant money. So I think grant money is probably one of those things where we need to sit back and say, that's icing on the cake. If we can reduce and take chunks out of the actual debt service, that's a good thing. But my experience over the past couple of years is, man, this is getting to be much harder to squeeze out of DHC. We have a good relationship with Bill Shelton as well, and I think we need to make it, our expectations need to be that we have to finance the full amount. Now, if we can chop off $100,000 here or $100,000 there with the Tobacco Commission or whatever, but I think the full amount, the expected debt service needs to be on the full amount. Okay? We'll continue to look, and if there's something that could be tied in with East End or whatever, we're all up for that. But I do think grants are much tougher to find.
I want to reiterate on what he's saying. We've got a grant right now that I got my fingers crossed for the East End. And typically, when what is our? We're putting up $900,000. Is that what it is?
I think if we receive the grant, it'll be $600,000.
$600,000.
And if we don't get the grant, we still have about $1 million obligation due.
But to put a grant forward that is badly needed and to include $600,000 check in it, that used to be an automatic check mark. Boom, you know, makes the grant stellar. And we haven't heard on that, which is shocking. I thought that would have been a done deal. We haven't heard we're not going to get it, and our carpetbagger governor is throwing out one grant at a time, trying to get popularity instead of doing what his predecessors has done, is have a ceremony and following counties and following communities get granted. He's just chunking them out one at a time, trying to get press releases. So. I just wanted you to understand that I agree. If you can't get a grant for VMAC and you can't get this East End grant, there's 30 or more armories, I believe the number is, sitting around in the same shape. And once you crack the seal on one armory, everybody's gonna come running for their hands. I've been hearing that for 12 years.
DHCD's been told us last year to apply for $175,000 grant. They were almost sure we would get it.
Right.
So
So the other, right, I understand, I understand.
Okay, it's there, we need help on the fall in the town. And just
I understand. The only other thing that I wanna stress, if we can only get a 5-year lease, and we're saddled with $24,000 a month, that would double the real estate tax that our citizens are paying just to get started,
No, you're not gonna double my real estate tax.
okay?
No, but that.
No,
that
if, no, I'm saying, no, in,
But I don't want you to do that. I want
okay,
your
no,
side,
but
okay?
what I'm saying is if we committed to a 10-year amortization schedule and we lost that lease, to raise the revenue, we would have to double your real estate tax. And so I have fussed at Philip and say, oh, we can do it, put pennies on the tax rate. You know, when we have such a low tax rate of 22 pennies, and you say you're gonna add 10 cents to it, that's 60% of it, okay, or 40% or whatever. I mean, it's substantial. No, you would have to double our tax rate. And we've got citizens here in town that can't pay light bills, let alone that they're paying a $450, $500 a year real estate tax, and you tell them now it's going to be $1,000. That's why I'm scared. Now we get a 10-year lease, and we use something that we know right now. If you add 1% on the meals tax, it's $85,000. It's simple math. All right. If you go up from 8% to 10% on the lodging tax that normally town folk doesn't pay, it's another 16,000. Is that correct? Close? It's close enough.
Again,
We two points on the lodging tax, $16,000.
lodging tax now brings about $28,000 a year total. So you do the math, so a 50% increase would bring in another $15,000.
So, see what I'm saying? I don't mind doing that. And then now we could take this town. You know, I don't mean this ugly, but it is what it is. The way we afforded the police department and built your fire station was transferred $750,000 out of the electric account into the general fund, and the account was called in lieu of taxes. Okay, so we could make a contribution from the electric, and we could do it. But if that payment stopped from Bon Secours, we can't do it. It's not, oh, we can rally together and we can feel good, and we can't make that payment. It would financially bankrupt this town. So that's what we got to do. So that's the reason why I've made so much hubbub about it. Do I want to do the Armory? Yeah. Can we afford to do the Armory? I don't know. It's simple. So if y'all have any questions, Mr. Johnson, did you want to address? Please come up here so you'll be recorded. You want to address the committee?
Good evening, everyone. The Armory. We had numerous of times to get rid of it, but we chose to give people's a break to try to see can they save the Armory. Now the town back in that same situation all over again with the Armory. It's not up to the committee, the town council, or nobody to make that decision. It should be up to the citizens of Blackstone. We the ones that got to pay for this thing. And everybody's not on board with that Armory. And it's not fair for us, for a lot of people that don't want it, and you got the few that do want it, and everything goes up. And when they came and they approached the town council about the Armory, they said little or no money from the town of Blackstone. 1.8 million is a lot of money. That's not no little or no money. Not from a long shot. The fairest way to do this thing, I think, would be invest in a survey. And take a survey, what do the peoples want? A new Armory or the Armory? I mean, a new community center or what? Because we got to have something. The town needs a community center. There's no F in or doubt about that. But we need something that's going to benefit everybody. Not what we pick. The citizens of Blackstone should be able to pick what they want in this community center because they're gonna be the ones that paying for this.
Hold that thought, would you? What would it cost? I know, we know we're not allowed to, everyone in this room knows we're not allowed to do referendums. That's not something that's within our power. But what would it cost for us to do a survey, townwide survey
I think
by
we're
mail?
proposing to do one. With
Yeah,
I
I-
talked a little bit about it, and one of the questions to include, I don't know if our comprehensive plan necessarily would have otherwise included a question about the armory or community center, but in an effort to get the comp plan, we're 15 years behind on that thing, it needs to be done. When Lewis came to the office one day, we started thinking, well, why don't we include that as a question? When we're doing a survey other way, do you want other activities in town? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? Where do you want the town to go in the future? And include a community center question in it. And I think will it cost much? I mean, we can do it one of two ways. We can do door to door and leave it on everybody's door, or we can mail it to everybody. But I think the door to door is a better situation because otherwise you're mailing a lot of things to people who live away that don't actually live in town, and you're not getting the voice of people that rent in town.
Well, how long does it take us to read the electric meters?
Pardon?
How long does it take to read the electric meters in town?
About 3 hours.
Oh, you've got
Electric meters.
get
we
water
drive
meters.
around in a pickup truck.
Water meters.
Water meters takes, we start on the 11th, we usually finish in 3 days.
Well, I mean, you could have a man reading the water meter and a man putting the.
Man, it won't take two guys to do nothing but hand out flyers or hand out things and put them on every
We're
door.
pro of that, Ben, we always have been.
Okay.
We told Philip that in the meeting.
I think that's gonna tell you some
In fact,
things.
that's what we've started doing, is trying to collect the information from the public, because we want to do what the citizens want to do, that's all. I mean,
Okay.
you know, no one else fighting for the citizens, you know.
Now, I had spoken to Dr. Berry about the 9th, 10th, and 11th graders and 12th graders because they're old enough to understand what's going on about taking part in the survey too, because the kids is our future, and they should have a say so what they would like to do too. And he said he will be glad to help me out with that, and they took the survey like everybody else too. And
A
just
separate survey from the students.
yeah.
No,
I mean-
I'd be willing to entertain that for certain.
Yeah, I mean, because in order to get people to start moving here and want to live here, you got to have something nice for them wanting them to come and move here. And people's gonna move something here if you got something that's gonna benefit them and their kids. Right now, we don't have that. No, but recreation, softball, and baseball and stuff like that.
Johnson's on the community center side, Ben, we need to look at trying to get us a community center for this town. We're here to support him in any way we can do these things. I think sometimes Peanut and I got off the wrong foot, and I apologize for that, because I think some people may want to get off the wrong foot. I'm on the side of all the people here, Peanut, I think you know it, I'm straight up. And I'd like to maybe talk to you sometime after this meeting, me and you can talk together. I'd love to do that.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Let us know what we can do, Ben, this group can do. I don't guess you need this group tomorrow for finance?
I don't know. I haven't talked to my committee yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask for some direction.
We'd like to, go a little longer and try to get some things for the community, obviously.
We have two other items on the agenda tomorrow. Now, whether or not this committee wishes finance to take it up and provide information to the council, that's what we're here for.
We can be here, we can have at least one person here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Okay, it's hard for everybody to take
I,
a day in.
I don't know where we would need any testimony.
Okay.
So,
We'd just like to be-
but it is open to the public and you're welcome. There won't be this forum tomorrow at finance committee meeting.
Right.
It'll be the three members and staff discussing.
We appreciate this.
Does anybody else would like to speak to this committee? Please come to the podium. We'd love to hear from you.
I don't really have any prepared remarks, and I've only made some notes here about things that I wanted to remind you of or to draw your attention to or speak to. I probably have the most skin in this game because of my personal connection with the building. That being said, that's not the passion and the heartfelt connection to the building is no reason to spend a lot of money to renovate it. But I think that we've heard today that renovating the building would give us the most bang for the buck, more space, more opportunities to configure that space the way we need it. But I've just got a couple of things I wanted to say. I was on the first committee appointed by, I believe, Mayor Jimmy Harris in 2005. Barbara, I believe, was on that one. Chuck Arneson was our chairman. And we went to South Boston to see the prizery and all those things, and everybody thought, oh man, this is great. We got shot down. We had another committee appointed by council. That one didn't go anywhere. This group didn't expect a handout from anybody. We organized, we formed a 501c3 in order to raise funds and give people tax deductions for that. And we've been fairly successful, I think, in our fundraising. But I feel like we've got Damocles' sword hanging over us by a thin, I think then it was a thin hair in the story. Our donations, like Walter Mack said, we've got somebody who is willing to really put up some cash. But, and I'll tell you, somebody in my family has hesitated because they're so afraid that a council will have a meeting, pull the rug out from under us, and there we are. And I certainly hope that that doesn't happen. Richard, I believe, mentioned it, and maybe Walter Mack, we did raise a lot of money last weekend with our raffle. I mean, that was just Ms. Hoover's vegetables, Ms. Hoover's baked goods, our raffle, donations. Someone who had been kind of on the sidelines gave me a check for $100. There's people there who want to make donations and are hesitant because of that. One thing that I was thinking about, that you mentioned that the previous councils had punted it down to the next one. And I think maybe there was no heart for the building. It was sort of a foregone conclusion that it would be surplused, sold, or destroyed. And they really didn't have the heart or the guts for the hard work that it was going to take to renovate it. Richard mentioned people who come in from away, and I will say that a lot of those people that I talked to who no longer live in Blackstone were once residents of Blackstone or Nottoway County, people who trained at the Armory, people who worked at Pickett, Blackstone High School alumni, people who had either a personal connection or had a family connection to town and to the building. Let's see, what else? Ben, you mentioned town employees. One of the suggestions that we have heard in all of our talks with these experts has been that you form a foundation to operate the building, to be responsible for scheduling and renting the place out. During arts and crafts, I heard people who just mentioned, not to us, but to vendors, oh, if you had this building, I could teach gymnastics, or if you had this building, we could do martial arts. Somebody else said, oh, it's big enough to do archery. So we have to think out of the box as well for our kids. We asked, in the op-ed that we submitted to the newspaper, we asked for input, and I checked this morning, we had no responses, which bothers me. I'd also like to know when the Bon Secours lease will be finalized? Do we have any idea about that timeline? I mean, how long are we gonna have to wait before we know?
We've been given a proposal, a copy of that. The current lease doesn't expire till January of 19. We're still a year and a half.
Oh my gosh, okay,
Still got plenty of time.
okay,
There's a year and a half-ish
okay.
left to go. I think really the hang-up at this point, we've not really sat down and negotiated. The big hang-up is that Bon Secours is asking the town to pay its leasing agent several $1,000s a year, which makes no sense
Makes
because we don't
sense.
have an agency or
Right.
anything with them.
Right.
So we've asked them to review that policy, and I'm awaiting an answer
Okay.
from Herbert Cummings.
Thank you. Brian also mentioned that the center portion, the drill floor, would be the cheapest to, not cheap, I'm not going to use that word cheap, less expensive to renovate. And that's the part of the building that we really could get some income from. I mean, if you do some work on the drill floor, if we can get some bathrooms finished, then we could start generating some income. And that's a no-brainer for me. And on a more personal note, I would like to say that I'm here today for a 3 o'clock meeting because this was important to me. I am neither self-employed nor retired, and I had to take vacation time from my job and have that approved by my employer in order for me to be here at 3 in the afternoon. Now, we offered plenty of options for evening meetings that were, I don't know if they were ignored or if they were just disregarded or what, but in any case, I appreciate the opportunity to
Well,
speak to you.
I certainly
Thank
appreciate
you.
your comments too, and you didn't use any talking points and skewed facts, and I feel like comments that come from the heart are usually better than those prepared, so thank you very much.
Being the fire department historically receives less than a 15% return rate on fundraising levels. So it's, we all have to face that. Even the fire department is hard to raise money at the community. It's just it.
Well, the only thing that I would say, there was a lot of good points raised, but I don't think that we'll ever be able to look at the armory as self-sufficient or as a moneymaker. I don't think anybody's expecting that. We just need to take that component out. I think, yes, we can charge some fees, but it would irk me to no end to put 20-some $1,000s a month on the backs of the taxpayer and then have a fee or a deposit so high that those who paid for it couldn't use it. Does that make any sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so-
I have a copy right here of the Fort County Community Club agreement, which I'll be glad to share with you.
I'm well
which
versed
they
on it.
use, and in conversations with them, it's like the same thing you said, that they have this advantage that helps their county and helps them move forward by having the building.
Right.
They say the only reason they can even pay their bills is because of the child care.
Right.
And that pays the lights and the upkeep of the building.
I don't think that's the issue. I don't think anybody is looking for it to be self-sufficient. It's just a matter of, do you want to put $2 million into renovating the building or not? And that's where we are.
Right.
Okay?
Well, let us know what we can do.
All right,
We're
we
here,
will.
and thank you for
We
being
will.
with us today.
Well,
appreciate
we're
it
glad.
very much.
I hope everybody's had the opportunity to speak, and I appreciate everyone being civil. And if anybody's got any questions of me, I think I've made it as directly clear as possible. And my scenario is when I ride by it, I want to bulldoze it. But when I walk through it, I want to do it. I don't know how to be any more clear than that. It's just a matter of, can the town of Blackstone take on $2 million in debt service? And that's what we got to look at.
Thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
All right, so we'll I don't know if we had an official public hearing, but we'll go back to committee work. What does the committee want to do from the, do you need a moment? Do you have any remarks?
No, I think I guess it just comes down to, does the current council want to renovate the building?
Let's find what our town wants. Let's find if we get our community to talk to us.
Do you have any questions or suggestions?
I would be very interested in knowing what a survey would say.
Right, when are you talking about such survey going out?
I'm not gonna find out. Let me ask Yvonne and, find out when she can have that. I don't know. She's been working on it for a couple of weeks. I would say, certainly in this calendar year.
Well, we meet again on the 18th, is that correct? Council meets on the 18th? I, 16th. It's early in the month, right? Oh, we're meeting on October 4th, and that's a continued meeting, is that correct?
16th.
But we're meeting on the 4th, and that's a continued meeting, which means we can take up whatever we want, correct?
You can add to the agenda.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw something out. Now, I'm not gonna discount what it takes to put out a survey. I know it's 3 days' work, but it's not gonna be free. But I don't really particularly want an issue that has had this much attention and that this group has put so much work into. And I know it doesn't count to some people, but so many people have stopped me on the other side that don't want to come up here and don't want to come to the podium and have told me, don't you spend $1 on it. I have had those people. I've not got a reason to look you in the face and lie to you. Because of that, I would rather have an individual survey done. I think it's worth it to get the information, and instead of it being lost in other words, if I get a form letter, I'm gonna throw it in the trash. If I get a small letter from the town involving the Armory and the Armory only, it would get the attention that it deserves. Am I making any sense here? So I'm suggesting that we may have an individual, ask council to authorize for your crews to go door to door and present a survey. And the survey would say, do we need a community center? Does it need to be the Armory? Are we willing to invest this much money? And this is what it means to you. Does that make sense?
Mr. Green, we had thought on our own about crafting
Right.
the survey.
We
so
want to do it Yvonne,
We'd like to be
Philip has
involved with
suggested that.
Yvonne,
And
Well-
Brian's telling me too that he has the ability to be able to do an internet one to help us too at no charge.
Okay.
So we can actually,
All right.
using the resources of both groups, I think we can reach more people in town by doing that if you allow us to help the town do this.
Unless I
We've
get
gotta prep the
any,
questions.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we coordinate, we've done this in other communities. over
Unless
time.
I get any egg thrown at me from right or left, I'm probably gonna make a motion here in a minute, okay? We don't wanna talk it out before we do.
I think if you're gonna put in there, are you willing to pay X number of pennies on the tax rate? You gotta be pretty specific and have your ducks in a row if you're gonna sit back, because that'll be a crushing blow to any project, whether it's at the town schools or the Armory. If you sit back and say, it's gonna be a 25% increase in your taxes, I think I know what most people are gonna tell you right off the bat.
Well,
So-
and we don't know dollars right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying, when we do this thing, do you want the Armory to be it needs to be more of a broad question rather than a specific. If you get down to the dollars and cents, I think you're gonna kill any kind of project if you talk about property tax raises. Some people may.
No,
Softer on the
I don't think
tax.
there's, listen, let's be honest, okay? There is no votes on this council to raise property taxes to do the Armory. I can just tell you that right now. And there's no need to sit up here and you can't put so much lipstick on a pig. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about getting a 10-year lease. I'm talking about I'm sorry, but I'm talking about make our visitors pay for most of it.
1% on meals tax.
And look, don't everybody get all alarmed, but if you take your family to one of our local restaurants and the bill's $100, you'll pay $101. If it's $10, you'll pay $10.10. Generally, if I take the kids to Happy Cafe and get my favorite BLT and it's $20, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not gonna stop me if it's $20.04. You know, I'm gonna go on and go. So that's what we're talking about. But when you start talking about raising real estate taxes or personal property taxes, then I can tell you I don't know of any votes to hear that. Okay, so what I'm saying is I don't think you got a deal. I don't think we even talk about this without a 10-year bond secure lease. Unless you want to mothball the project, save the bond secure lease money, and then if you get another 5 years, you've got that much money banked and you're ready to go. But I can tell you, I don't see any votes on obligating the citizens for $20-some thousand a month. I mean, and I will, as finance director, holler, scream, shout, and say everything we've done in the last 6.5, 7 years since you've been here is out the window.
You've gotta,
So
Like, you can't do a survey till you know what kind of financing you have.
that's why I was gonna ask, I was gonna ask my committee, if they wanna take some action. We meet, Finance Committee meets tomorrow. We'll be glad to look at it and get, and furnish a rough draft for council on the 4th. Would you two entertain making a suggestion to council that we get input from everyone, have a survey, and bring that survey back, and if we could authorize it on the 4th, could you have it back to us in a month?
yeah, I think that.
Okay.
I mean, it's a mimeograph. I think the idea of putting it online probably makes some sense. But I think we do door to door and the guys just do it after work or after they finish on their garbage routes. We just turn them loose like we do other stuff.
Do we have a couple people of our team and work with the town team to do that survey and get it worked together?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're here for free help, that's what we're
All
here.
right, well, that, and I certainly don't mind doing a 5 or 6 blocks myself. So I'll be glad to do that as well. We could,
Shouldn't the survey be offering what each community, what the Army be offering and what the community center be offering, so people would know what they deciding on?
absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
you just can't say between the Army and the community center, 'cause that won't be fair to nobody.
Well,
You gotta-
I
you
think
gotta
the
frame it
question there,
correctly.
excuse me, the question there is, there is no even malleable idea about a new community center, unless I've missed something. I mean, you can
Other
say,
than
you
the
can
fact that
say
it costs
yes,
$1 million more.
you can say, yes, we can build this, but there's
We've
no,
got
there's no,
2.5 acres.
that's really
down
bad
there to
apples and
live on,
oranges.
As far as I can say, put a gym.
I mean, you're putting up something that we, again, you're putting up a concept, an idea against something that's actually got foundations that we're working on.
If you gotta find, you want a community center, then you gotta find the best rate for a community center.
I don't know if that's necessarily the case, because the town spent about $5,500 last year, 2 years ago, with HDH Architects to look at the old buildings over there, and they gave us a master plan that the council voted on for the whole property over there.
But the
The
problem
brakes
with
got
that,
put on when the
Don't
school
you
said, we don't want to give you the
don't you
bill.
need the schools
but you need the
for that
property,
to
that's
happen?
the problem.
The problem over there is, to this point, the schools and the board of supervisors have been reluctant to turn loose the building. But there is a master plan over there, and it had stuff like, a sprinkler system for the kids to run on. I mean, it had all kinds of pavilions and all that kind of stuff, and it was adopted by council, okay? And it had 2 basketball courts, and I think the one basketball court was actually intended to go where that orange building was, but they didn't want to get rid of the building.
How many of y'all live in Nottaway County? How many of y'all, all y'all, but I see 2 that don't live in the county, okay? You elect a school board probably in District 4, District 5, you elect a school board member and you elect a member of the Board of Supervisors. I mean, so I think I hear what you're saying, but I'd like a survey to see where we stand. And one of the questions should be, should we work in conjunction with the school board and the Board of Supervisors and locate one at Rigglesworth, or should we buy a piece of property and put a new one, or should we do the armory? I mean, all that needs to be in the survey. I think it would be wrong to say, do we do the survey and spend all this money on the armory? I think it'd be wrong. I think it'd be at an unfair advantage.
Well, I'd say,
Okay.
you need to find out if you need a community center, what's a community center in town need?
Right.
One of our questions was, do you think you need do we need a community center? And how could the armory meet those needs?
I have no
Was the
problem
question.
as long as they're not talking points, okay? Because I despise
We
them.
need to sit down.
I
and work this
despise
together.
If you talk apples and apples and oranges, I'll be glad to sign off on your questions, okay? So I guess my question is it sound like a reasonable idea? We do a separate survey, we put some time in it, we do it right, we send it out, see what we got back. Any objections to any of that?
Okay.
Peanut? I mean, and I think we get it as much information as we can from like you say, and my position with Kinston Forest. we got same upper school people over there. I'll look into that too. And they live in this community as well. So I'd like to hear from them. What do we need and where in the whole 9 yards. So
Thank you, Ben.
what does the committee think? Does the committee think that's a good idea to have a?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Would you?
Survey.
All right. So I don't think. How about this? Does the committee have a problem with me talking with finance tomorrow, briefing them if they already don't know where we are, and for us to come up with some numbers to present to council on the 4th of what we think it would cost and ways of doing it, and that this committee would like to see a survey done and let them make a recommendation to follow up on it with the financial information. Is that agreeable to you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like that idea? So I don't see any action from this committee. Are you agreeable with that, Mr. Manager?
I don't know.
All right, so the plan is I'm meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock with finance. I'm going to get 4 o'clock, that's correct. That's why I got you here, Peanut. And this old black book. So I'm going to convey what's happened here in a short story and say that the committee would like finance to provide options on how to come up with this $2 million and survey the town through electronic and door-to-door. Is that correct? Everybody on board? Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else to come before this committee about the armory? Now, I know this subject has been very passionate, and there was Virginia gentlemen and Virginia ladies in here amongst us, and I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. Except Mr. McCure. No, excuse me. Is there any other business before the committee, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
Then we will stand adjourned at 5 p.m. on the button.